Welcome to Enlightenment Unknown, Life of a Spiritual Nomad. Join Reiki Master and Quantum Healing expert Wes Coons as he guides listeners through the depths of self-discovery and spiritual enlightenment to uncover the version of you we haven't met yet. Hello and welcome back to Enlightenment Unknown, Life of a Spiritual Nomad. Wes, all I've got to say is season 2 has been amazing so far. So many great guests. We had Margaret, we had Ty. Actually, we have recorded quite a few things with Ty and we are not done yet. But what else has been going on since the last time I saw you?
Andrea, we've had a ton of stuff going on. One of the things is we're in like 12 countries now, something like that. We've got the best listeners. We've had well over 2,000 downloads of the show. Tons of people reaching out saying that they've appreciated the show or they've seen something or heard something that resonated with them. So that fills our heart. That's what we're here to do, is help people heal and move forward. And of course, there's entertainment aspect to this. I mean, I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's been painful as fuck for me, but there's that. Yeah.
I like how you always say there's that.
Yeah. So Ty's been in this week. We had Margaret on not too long ago. We did that episode with the different times I've seen Jesus. I think I left out one or two. I was laying there last night, couldn't sleep, and I'm like, oh, I forgot about this and forgot about that. So it's been a lot. It's been fun, and I've loved it. Plus, Sydney's new bike is doing well, right?
Yes, and that is the second installment in the Enlightened Children series. So if you have not already read What Color is Your Dragon, which is the first installment, go out and get it. And then follow it up with Sydney's new bike.
Yes, and the book teaches about random acts of kindness, inspired action, and becoming the person that they're supposed to be and believing in themselves. It's really cool. I was up at the mountain this last weekend, and I've had a couple instances now that I've watched some friends of mine pull out the one or both of the books that we've written, Andrea, and they didn't pull it out because I was there. They pulled it out because their children wanted to read the book, and I got to watch them read the book that we put together. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that was really magical. You sent me some pictures and it just really warmed my heart to see something that we care so deeply about. See that manifest into reality. Like, here's this books now that we are so passionate about, and to see them actually in the real world, it's really amazing, and we're very grateful.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So we have Enlightenment Unknown, Life of a Spiritual Nomad has a Instagram page, Enlightenment_Unknown. So I put that together last night. We're going to have pictures. You'll see pictures of Ty. You'll see pictures of me. We'll have pictures of Andrea and stuff like that. So you'll get to see who's on the show. You'll get to see Kennedy, Sugar. And it's a fun place. So we talked about where we're going to put photos out. That's where it's going to be. So go there, find us, follow us. If you like the show, do us a favor. Go click the 3 little buttons if you're on Spotify to the right, and that is where you can do reviews. But whatever platform you're on, give us a 5-star review. I think we're up at 40 or 50 when you count all the different podcast places we're at. So thank you for that.
Yes, and talking about sharing the show, Wes, we just re-recorded episode 1 to make it even better so that people could really understand the messaging and the journey from the get-go. Do you want to talk about that a little?
Yes, I do. You know, we labored back and forth what we were going to do with that episode. It didn't feel right. It was super heavy, and let's be honest, that episode was hard for me. I didn't want to do the podcast, but I knew it needed to be told. I knew this story needed to be told. And that was so freaking painful for me. So, bottom line is we re-recorded it. I love the message, and it allows new listeners to understand really what the show is about. So go there and check out episode 1, season 1. It's good. What are we doing today, Andrea?
Well, I'm really excited today because, again, we have a special guest, and we're going to be talking I think I know what we're going to be talking about, Wes. Aren't you and our special guest going to be talking about another exorcism?
Yeah. There's that.
Oh, yeah,
So,
there's that.
Yeah. So Ty is here. What's up, brother?
What's up, man?
Yeah, I love Ty. You know, one thing about Ty is he always has a kind word. He always has a smile on his face. He's looking for the bright side, and he just has this energy about himself. I love you, and it's an honor for you to be in my life, and an honor for you to be on this show.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I always feel I don't know how to take compliments real well. So when you say things like that, I'm like, thanks.
I struggled with that for a real long time, and I would always say something like this insult to myself. And somebody one day, a number of years ago, put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, "Wesley, just say thank you."
You told me that. You told me that before, and
Yeah.
and I took that's why now I don't immediately go negative anything when you say something positive. I always, at least at a minimum, just say thank you and not degrade it, but thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So today we are about at that point where we're talking about the second exorcism. So to give you all a little backdrop of where we were and what we were doing, early on in the show, my secretary and I went to a Catholic church here in town, and I had to wait 10 days to see the priest, right? I don't understand that, but that's what they said. And the funny thing, Ty, is everybody that I tried to get to help me was always 2 to 4 to 6 to 8 weeks away. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, there was never anything quick. So for me, at that point in my life, to walk into a Catholic church, you know I'm in fucking trouble.
Yes, sir.
Any church. But I wanted to go talk to this priest, and I go in there with my secretary, and she grew up Catholic, and she understands the ins and outs, and she had this look on her face, and I think the priest thought we were there for couples counseling or something, because we may have lied about that to get to see him. I was embarrassed. Hey, I got a demon chasing me.
Right.
Seemed weird.
How do you start a conversation with that? You know?
Well, I got this demon chasing me. And so we go in there, and I'm like, hey, we're not actually here for couples counseling. I'm in trouble. And the priest was really sweet. So as we were talking to him, something came up behind me and started to slowly slide this like pencil thickness knife into my back about 6 to 8 inches. And I remember trying, my secretary noticed something was off. The priest didn't. But that whole thing, the creepy crawlies were crawling on me like crazy. This entity was in the room, in the church, in front of the priest, basically letting me know there ain't shit you can do. We can come and go wherever we want. We can have access to you whenever we want. And I remember talking to him, I even said, yeah, something's like sticking a knife into me right now. And he's like, oh, wow, okay. And he didn't know what to say. It wasn't his, he didn't do that kind of work. So as we're talking, he invites us to sit down at the table. And so we're in his office, and it's got all the religious bullshit on the wall. And you see nuns walking up and down the hallway. It's creepy to me, right? I mean, I don't know if you find nuns.
I'm laughing because, like, yeah, you know, nuns and religious bullshit on the walls. Like, can you say that? I gotta check the rule books on that one.
Hey, I speak to Jesus on the reg. He's fine.
Okay, good.
I'll text him right now. Hey, I talk to Jesus all the time. That dude's got a sense of humor. And at the end of the day, this is who I am. So there's that, right?
Run with it, baby. I love it.
I mean, at that time, one of the things I do on this podcast is I have the ability to go back to who I was at that time. And that person was so broken and so fucking scared. And, you know, at that time, I was angry at the church. For me to show up there, I had nothing else. God had to take me through this spiritual awakening and break me to the lowest point I could be without taking my own life, because they couldn't, and then rebuild, just like they did in the Marine Corps, just like they do in all the boot camps. I don't know about the Navy and the Air Force and stuff. I think they're off at 4 o'clock every day.
Get
so
off at 4 and like, oh, enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
yeah. Oh, don't forget your chai latte. But they do that. And I just remember, so I tease about those things because I'm not a religious person. I'm a spiritual person that has a deep connection with Jesus and do this work. Plus I'm a little rough around the edges, but that's what you get. Mm-hmm. And we're sitting there at this big table, and I was sharing with him the stuff, and this priest leans over, looks back and forth, and he says, "That shit is real." And I started laughing because he cussed. I'm like, I love this guy.
My type of church.
Yeah. And I asked him, I said, "Well, Father, what do we do?" He said, "Son, I can't do that work. I don't do that work. To do that work, you have to be so solid in your foundation and connection to Jesus." And I would imagine there's probably some other things. Not everybody can walk towards gunfire. Some people can, some people can't, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, if you don't have that fearless ability in you, and there's nothing wrong if you don't.
Not at all.
But if that is not part of your DNA, like he was saying, I don't do that work. He said there's specially trained priests that do that. And so I'm like, all right, well, how does that work? And then, they talk about all this paperwork, and he's very kind, and we left there, and I'm like, fuck that. I ain't filling that fucking paperwork. I ain't doing that. It just...
wasn't the right feel. It wasn't the right feel. It didn't fit right.
It wasn't the person. I knew what my person would be. I knew when I seen that person, that would be it. And I remember one day I was sitting there. So to finish that up, we left, and he answered our questions. He gave us some holy water. He gave me like a little, like a baseball card looking thing with Mother Teresa on it and stuff.
With a prayer on the back.
Yeah. It was really nice. He's really nice. And he's sweet. And, he made us feel comfortable and safe. And he respected me and respected her. So it was very, very nice opportunity. And the funny thing is that church, when I was in high school, I learned how to roof on the very tip top of that church. So I'm not going to say the name of the church, but it's across the street from Haynes Furniture on Virginia Beach Boulevard. So you can figure that out if you're from here, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm definitely not going to tell you any locations of the other church, but at the very tip top of that peak, at the very top, I roofed that when I was 17.
You did that. That's my handiwork right there.
Yeah, that was terrifying. With no ropes, no security stuff.
You'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. But I thought it was interesting. I learned how to face one of my biggest fears of heights in that church. And then here I'm facing another fear. One of my biggest fears was what I was battling in that church. And I think as we go through life, there's things that show up for us that might not be the solution, but it's part of the step, right?
Right, for sure.
Yeah, so this is one of the steps, and we left. And I told my secretary, I'll figure it out. This isn't our guy. And so I went back home. I ended up talking to this organization somewhere in Florida. And the lady was very kind. I said, "Hey, I'm Wes. I'm from Virginia Beach. I've got this really, really haunted house." And I didn't at the time know I needed an exorcism. And the lady says, if you need your house fixed, you don't have to come down to Florida and find somebody and bring them up. We have somebody that teaches that course to our group, and he's in Virginia Beach.
I did not know that.
Yeah. I'm like, you're fucking joking me, right? Dude, so I Googled this cat, and we're not going to say his name, but this priest is a badass.
Like him a lot.
And when I seen his picture online, I'm like, that's my guy.
Yeah.
I knew that's my guy. And it was weird because the address they gave was a P.O. box. And I didn't realize the P.O. box, but long story short, I jumped in my car and drove right there and figured that out. So it took me a day or two to figure out where he worked. So I called and talked to the young lady on the phone, and told her what the deal was. And I got to talk to the priest for a couple minutes. And yeah, he was very kind, but he asked me if I was shooting up heroin.
Did he really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. I said, no, sir, I'm not. He said, are you sure? I said, yes, sir. He said, because I do a lot of work with veterans, and your story's pretty big. I said, I understand, but I'm not doing drugs. And so we got off the phone, and the next day I just drove up there. And the lady's like, Mr. Coons is here. He's like, who? And then he recognized it, and he came he literally came running down the hallway. And he looked me up and down. He said, show me your arms.
Looking for track marks.
Yeah, he was looking for tracks. And he just looked at me to see if he was going to believe me. And I said, you know, I have a job. I said, I work hard. Yeah. I mean, I'm not homeless or whatever. And so he puts his hand on the back of my neck and takes me down to his office. He said, I only have 3 minutes. I'm like, well, thank you for the time. And he sits me down. And one of the things he did was he grabs this glass, which I think had brandy in it. And I didn't realize what was happening, but he gave me communion. And then he anointed my trigger finger. And when he did that, because he works with veterans and helps them, this priest says that when we go to foreign countries and fight these battles, that we come back and we've been cursed by the people in those countries. They may not be able to kill that Team 6 guy or that Navy guy, Marine, whatever, but if they put a curse on you and you bring that home, it destroys the family unit inside, and that's how they fight, because they can't fight the same way we do.
We're definitely superior in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that made so much sense to me, and I thought it was interesting. Here's this priest talking about these curses. So as he anoints my trigger finger, I could feel that going all the way up into my shoulder. It was really bizarre and beautiful to feel. So we do that, and he hands me this brandy to drink, and I'm like, holy cow. And then I think he had 2 or 3 brandies.
I like that communion.
Yeah, he communioned himself 2 or 3 times. And he's like, I got to go. But basically, love you, mean it, get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Because he was busy.
He's got a busy man for sure.
Yeah. So I think he was getting ready to do some prayers or noon prayer or something. And he invited me to stay, and I just couldn't stay. And I had Kennedy with me. She was in the Jeep. He says, bring the dog. And, you know, he opened everything for me, and I chose not to stay. I remember when he said the part about they put curses on us reminded me when I was in the first Gulf War. I don't even remember where we were at. Saudi Arabia, I don't know. We're in the middle of a desert somewhere. And they had all of 2nd Marine Division. There's hundreds of these tents. There's thousands of people walking around. You know, the Marine section, probably about 150,000 people. Nearly all of 2nd Marine Division was there. And we were in formation. They're doing something, and the locals were acting weird. You know, this was really before the time of car bombings and things of that nature, so it was relatively easy to get to us. It was just a different time. And I remember everybody started hauling ass, and I grabbed this one local guy. I said, why is everybody leaving? And, you know, in that country, there's a certain hand that you touch people with.
Yes.
I never really gave a fuck because I'm there to do my job, so I never really learned which one, but I'm pretty sure I grabbed him with the one that you wipe yourself with.
Yeah.
There's that. Sorry, God. We'll fix that karma later. And so he wasn't happy I was touching him, and I did that on purpose because I didn't care. I knew something was wrong. I said, what's going on? And he said, nothing. And he was trying to leave. I'm like, well, here's the deal. You and I are going to stand right here because there's nothing going on. And he just looked at me. He said, that guy over there is some kind of medicine person. He's whatever he is, but he is putting curses on your unit. I'm like, what? He said he's putting a curse on your unit. So I let him go, and he ran off. And one of the things that we may have done in the Marine Corps, with their culture, they don't eat pork, right? So in our MREs, we have ham chunks. Mm-hmm. So we may have all saved our ham chunks in our cargo pockets. So when we came across the prisoners of war and we threw the ham at them to see if their religion is more important than their hunger. Just saying. So if you're following that, as they're hungry, we were going to give them ham, and we wanted to see if they'd eat it. So because we're Marines, I did not say we're right. I did not say we're normal. I did not say it was appropriate. However, it's what we did. So we've got this guy. Did they do that in the Army?
Unfortunately.
Yes. Yeah.
I would love to say, oh no, but yeah.
Yeah. So this guy's over there cursing my brothers. And I pulled this, 4x6 thing out of my pocket. And dude, man, I don't know who like the best baseball pitcher in the world is, but that was me that day. I winged that fucking thing about 60 feet and slapped him in the side of the head. And I started running my mouth to him. Well, one of the problems we come to find out is I had a curse placed upon me from these entities or whatever called jinn. They're very, very powerful from that part of the country.
Yes.
And you don't fuck with them.
You know what's so funny you say that? I've heard it before. J-I-N.
Yep.
I've heard it before.
And we're saying this with due respect to the jinn.
Due respect. I mean, I
ain't pissing them motherfuckers off again. I can tell you that.
I don't want no kind of problems. But yeah, I've heard it before, and I've. It's interesting you bring that up because like I've heard it in passing, and I'm like, what do you call those legends? Those urban legends. Urban legend, but nah.
Yeah,
okay, all right.
Those. I remember Sandra Grace figured it out, and I remember the day I was with her, and she figured that out, and she just looked at me, and she took like 4 steps back, and kind of she always would like tap her fingernails on her teeth, as she is thinking, and she's like, "You have to leave." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She said, "I got to figure this out and you can't be here." And it scared her. She knew what I was up against. And it was significantly powerful. And that's where the priests and all those other people were, maybe not the priests, but the Buddhist monk and stuff like that were figuring out what was going on and didn't want to participate because they were scared, right? Mm-hmm. So here I am, 19 years old, in combat, pissing off this dude who's putting voodoo or whatever on me, and he scurried off. I chased him off, and we all laughed about it, didn't understand what actually had happened. So as you fast forward, here I am in this priest's office talking about these curses, and I'm like, fuck, man, I think I may have fucked up. And so he sends me on my way. So I had asked him on the way out, I said, "When can you come fix the house?" Yeah, we'll be there. We'll be there. And, like a week goes by and I try to track him down. So this went on for a while. And one of the things that the darkness was able to do is delete voicemails, delete text messages, delete emails. So when a priest tells me he didn't get an email from me, I'm going to believe him.
Right.
When the Buddhist monk says, "You've left me no voicemails," I'm going to believe him. So those things were happening. And Andrea, did we ever talk about the lady from Madagascar that told me I was too stupid to understand what was going on?
Briefly.
Yes. So she knows me well. So I find this lady from Madagascar who tells me, when I'm trying to figure this stuff out, she says, "You're too stupid to understand, so I'm not going to explain it to you. But every time you do a blessing on the house, you're giving it more strength." And I never have figured that out. Do you have any idea why that would be, Ty?
when you bless the house, you're giving the entities inside the house more power.
Instead of taking them away, they actually get stronger every time.
I do not have an answer, sir. I do not know. I've never heard that before.
I think you should go read your Bible again.
I will see you in an hour.
Yes. So that's one of the things she said. And she also told me that when I have I didn't realize it needed the exorcism, but she said when you have the exorcism, that basically you're going to have to go to the men's room to pass it. Right?
Oh, explain something.
Yeah, remember?
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's
I didn't
great.
know that.
So basically, I'm going to potty it out. And I'm like, of fucking course, that's what we're going to do. So I ignored her on that. And so here we are fast forwarding. And, the priest calls me. The priest knows that we had the first exorcism. So those two cats are talking, right?
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. So those two guys are talking. They're convinced Sandra Grace Brooks is doing demonic work. They're convinced that Reiki's the devil and that I'm getting tied up with these people. So you fast forward and the priest invites us to the church. Now, Ty, I can't remember if this was before or after he came to the house. Do you remember? I feel like it's after.
I did not know he went to the house until you told me.
Yeah, because you weren't there. You weren't there for that.
So I was just there at the church.
Okay, so we get to the church, and Ty had already been through the one exorcism with me, right?
Yes.
So there's that.
I was present.
There's that. And we're walking through this church is big. And dude, it was so creepy to me because nobody was there. And we had to go down to this one little area in the chapel where they do prayers and stuff and they do their hands-on healing. And we go in there and it was the priest. And was there like 6 or 7 other people?
No, for what I believe, from how I remember it, it was the priest and 2 of his deacons, or one minister and 1 deacon.
Is that what it was?
And then you and I. So in total 5. How I remember it.
Was one of the deacons the attorney?
I think he was a minister, or he was there.
He was there.
That attorney. Yeah.
So when they came to the house, they brought, there's like 8 or 9 people, and one of the people was an attorney in that church.
Yep.
And that attorney had a demon in him. I don't care how you cut it. That dude had a demon in him.
I don't know if I'm gifted enough to make that diagnosis, but on a human level, I'll leave that to you, buddy.
Yeah. Well, something was wrong. I know when he was in the house, when he came to the house, when they were working on the house, every time he came up to me, you could smell rotting flesh of a dead body. So, and he was acting really bizarre in the house. And the couple times I met him previous, he's very polite, but something was wrong. And so we're in there, and he threw holy water on me, right? Because that's when my arms started freaking out.
At the church.
Yeah.
I remember your arm.
He had this little handle thing that had, he dipped it in something and flung it. What is that called?
That one's spotty to me. I don't remember. I mean, it had to be like it had to be holy water.
Yeah.
It had. I mean, that's. I don't remember that part, but that's what I would.
Yeah. So
deduct.
Well, when he one of the first things he did when we came in, he asked if I had any weapons with me, and
which, based off of the last exorcism, that was a good question.
Yeah, which is an important question to ask people.
Yeah.
So especially in that, and he works with veterans, so we got through all that, and we talked a little bit, and then he stuck this thing in this bucket and flinged the water. I mean, I remember my skin was on fire.
I remember. Okay, I don't remember that part of him, but I do remember you reacting, that whole twitching and squirming around, and that left. It's always that left side, that left arm, and you're doing weird things and you're flexing your fingers and your wrists, and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. Well, we were talking earlier, that whole left side of my body was having problems, right?
So I remember this before you did, but your left armpit smelling bad. Mm-hmm. Your left tooth on the left side of your mouth rotting, and I didn't smell it, but you were talking about how foul taste or foul smell it was. An infection on your foot, the left side, and all of these, and it was all within a month of each other, these things happening, and it was all on the left side, and I just remember, I hear you, oh, this hurt, and I don't take note of every.
Sure.
Wes at 10:58 p.m. Wes said that
I think you should do that. I think you should care enough to do that, Ty.
If I was only a good enough friend. But I remember those things standing out. Why? Oh, it's left side again. Oh man, it's left side again. Oh man. And it was all within like a month of each other.
Yeah, it was all different things were showing up one after another. And now that you say that, I had an issue with my left ear, the drainage, and having these cuts on the back of my ear, and it was bizarre. So the body odor on my left armpit was not my body odor. I mean, think about some grungy dude who doesn't take a shower living in prison. That's what that smelled like. It was bad, and it wasn't mine.
Yeah.
And I don't understand what all that was. So on top of things crawling on me, on top of me smelling like somebody else, on top of, and I don't know if I actually had an infection or those smells were there. I smelt them. Right. I don't know if anybody else did. The infection in my foot and my ear and goofiness was definitely there. Mm-hmm. So to kind of sum it up, I was really, really, really uncomfortable, to say the least. Yeah. And I was freaking scared.
I remember both those, you pointed that out, that you were really afraid and that you were really uncomfortable, and being there watching, I'm like, oh, I can see both of those, like the twitching, the squirming, like the look of fear. And, I'm not saying I wasn't scared too. I mean, I wasn't going through what you were going through, but I was there too. And it really was, there's different levels of fears. There's different fear of the unknown, the boogeyman in the closet, the monster under your bed, all of those type of fears. It was a specific type of fears, like a cross between what's going to happen and the boogeyman under the bed. Really, I mean, that's the best way I can explain it.
Yeah.
Because I've been to the first one, and I was like, shit, I'm scared too.
Yeah. Well, it was in the military. If we're going into combat, the guy in the other uniform is the bad guy.
Right.
That person on the other side of the field is the bad guy. You can't see the bad guy. You can't control anything. You don't understand what's going on. They have access to you 24 hours a day. They could do whatever they want to me. And they did. They literally would... My skin would be ripped open from them. I would have claw marks on my body. I had faces on my skin. I had this body odor coming off me that wasn't mine. This odor coming out of my mouth that wasn't mine. Seeing things, feeling things, hearing things. One person after another saying, I can't help you, or I can, and then they're not able to. So I was fucking terrified, and the fear was this fear that gets into your bones, and it changes who you are. And so when we walked into that place and he splashed that holy water on me, on top of all the other pain, it was like hot oil on me all over again. And my arms flailing around, and I'm instantly, think about the worst anxiety you've ever had in your life and times it by 6,000. I mean, I'm ready to rip my fucking skin off. And I remember looking at the priest, the look on his face, and I'm thinking to myself, if this is the dude that teaches the exorcism stuff and he's got that look, what the fuck is going on, man? Right?
Yeah, it was, I remember because I'm a watcher. I'm in the moment, but I'm seeing everything. I'm looking at everybody's expression. How are they reacting to this? And I'm just watching everyone, and to see the priest look over at the minister or the like, all right, what next? Like, okay, all right. I hope I might be jumping a little bit ahead.
No, go ahead.
But like, there were moments like in prayer, we're praying, and he's praying, he's holy water, and he asks the deacon, what do you think we should do next?
Yeah.
Ask the other guy, what do you think we should do? Ask me, what do you think we should do next? I'm like, run? No. But like, it was, and I'm not taking away anything from him, but he was like that much open. Like, what do we need to do? How do we fix this?
This was a team project. Yeah.
It was a team project. He was talking about praying in that position. He said, why am I hearing that? And I said, that's my go-to. Like, when I'm intense prayer, like I'm talking about nose on the floor, forehead on the floor,
With your so he said that. Then you shared how you prayed in the most vulnerable position that you could be in.
That's like my beating the floor. This has to work now. That's where that's my go-to. And he said, "Why am I hearing that?" And I was like, "Oh, that's what I do."
Yeah.
And he made us all do that.
Yeah. And so the reality is we've been doing it for a little bit and it wasn't fixing shit.
Wasn't doing anything.
So we've been doing it for a little bit and it wasn't fixing anything. And Ty says, well, this is how I pray. This is my most vulnerable position. So I laid on the ground, face down, with my arms and legs spread. And that was my most vulnerable position I could get in. And all of a sudden, I don't remember if he was doing prayers or what he was doing. My stomach started to hurt, right?
Yep, I remember that. Yep.
I know this is probably, y'all are probably laughing, but I had to go to the bathroom. I mean, it was like you're in labor. The pain was so bad. And the priest was looking at me like, what are you, thinking that I was playing a game or something. And I told him, I said, well, somebody said, when this happens, I'm going to pass this entity in the bathroom. And he's like, so it was embarrassing as shit. But
right.
Hey, where I was in my life, I was like, dude, I got a good body.
Yeah,
man.
exactly. Look, hey, time out. Hit the pause button. And what did he tell me?
Yeah, he says, go with him. So we're walking down this hallway. I don't know what you felt in the hallway, but dude, as we're walking, the same energy I felt in that truck going to the first one was in that hallway.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And what I keep remembering in those times, it's almost like a bad Halloween movie, and it's like the fog, the smoky, the fog machine that's causing this fog in a room. Like, it was a fog, and then it wasn't really, it wasn't, but it felt like that, and like, and I remember walking down that long hallway to that bathroom, and I'm walking behind you because, no sir, but
so we get in the bathroom. He's kind of looking at me and he's like, I'll wait outside. I'm like, that'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
So I walked.
I love you, bro, but not that much.
Yeah, me either. So we walked in this bathroom. This is an old. Think of the bathroom that you had when you're in elementary school.
Right? Exactly
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
So the toilet was probably green or something. It had all this fucked up ass colors. It's never been renovated. And so I go into the stall and I close the stall door and I sit on the toilet. And the room is bizarre. It was scary. And all of a sudden, I started to, I never told you any of this. I started to shrink like I was 5 years old, 6 years old, probably a little bit older. It took me back to when I was molested as a child. And the area that they had been ripping me in was my backside this whole time. So this whole time, when I go to the men's room, you've got open cuts. And there was no reason, there was no reason why there's open cuts there, except for that's what it was like when I was raped as a child. And so to keep my vibration low, to keep me in that pain spot, to keep me broken and victimized, they're like, hey, let's just remind you what it felt like to be raped. That's what they did.
And so the devil has many names in the Bible, and just the adversary, the enemy. Like, man, the devil is definitely on his job. His job is to steal, kill, and destroy everything you have. Right? Every bit of life. That's what he wants.
Yep.
Drain you from it.
Yep.
What a low down. You know what I mean? Like the enemy is on his job. Your enemy is on his job. Anything he can, like that low.
Yeah.
That low. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm sitting there on top of my ear draining, the armpit odor, the pain everywhere, the pain on my backside, the pain in my back. I am freaking miserable. And that room was like, it was like another dimension open up in there. And all of a sudden I watched myself shrink to where literally the shorts that I had on, no exaggeration, Ty, fell off my pants because my feet weren't big enough. As a grown man, you're sitting on the toilet.
Right.
But as I'm sitting there, I see these little 10-year-old little boys' feet and my adult-sized clothes on the floor. And it's like he shrunk me, and everything just, it's like the stall I was in got elongated. The energy in there was fucking bizarre. And I just remembered, I just took a breath and I said, fuck you. That's the only thing I knew what to say. I was like, fuck you. We ain't doing this. And all of a sudden, when I did that, it went away. I went to the restroom, and we're not going to describe all that part, but that was bizarre. And Andrew's over here. I want to know.
What was the texture?
I don't remember. When you shit out a demon, it's not fun. Let's just call it what it is.
I'm just happy he didn't jump out of the toilet and chase us around.
Dude, I was flushing that fucking toilet so fast.
Good. Because sir, the car ride would not have been needed. So, ran to my mom.
There's that. And so when I felt like I was done, the room was normal. The eerie feeling was gone. I washed my face, and I remember holding onto the sink and, like squatting down to my knees and placing my forehead on the sink and just starting to cry. And just fucking sobbing. And you weren't there for that part.
Outside the door, yeah.
And I just remember thinking, I don't know how much more I can do. The house wasn't fixed. I don't know if this fixed it. Stuff was still crawling on me. I was still ripped. There's lots of things going on. The whole left side of my body was fucking fucked up. And I just remember holding onto that sink saying, God, you got to help me. And for me to ask him for help was a lot. I said, you've got to help me. Because I don't know what else to do. And I think we were still like 45 days or so away from Lakota's, weren't we?
That was a long ways off.
We were a long way off, and Lakota was the last thing, because she was really my last hope. And so we went down there, and the priest is kind of looking, everybody's kind of looking at me a little bit sideways, like,
It was definitely a walking back into the room. It's like all eyes is like, we're ready for round two.
Yeah, do we have a boy or a girl?
Exactly.
And we sit down, we talked a little bit, and I said, I feel like it's done. I mean, I didn't feel like anything else was there. And he's like, you sure? I'm like, yeah, and I don't know if I feel like maybe he threw holy water on me again or something, didn't react, and then we left. So it's interesting when I go to that church now and I'll go to use that restroom because, I like that church. I trust that priest.
Yeah.
But it's interesting walking down there and it's like, I remember that night. So that was the second exorcism that didn't fix it.
Nope.
So, Andrea, that's what happened there. There's that. And then I slept in the Holiday Inn, and I knew how to build a spaceship after that.
I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express.
Yeah. I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express, and I shit out a demon. My name's Wes.
Like, two things about that. Wes always says, so there's that. And you know what I really like, Wes, about, obviously this was a very moving episode, very painful to relive, but I really like is you will go straight from, and I was like, fuck that motherfucker. And then I was going to potty out a demon.
The normal things of
Yeah,
life,
right? Yeah, I'll go from laughing my ass off to crying, then fuck you. That's what I can do. It's one of my superpowers.
Great storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah, my friend Jessica, she's like, I listened to your podcast, and she goes, are you fucking crying? I mean, you're fucking crying right now. You were just laughing like 3 seconds ago. Now you're fucking crying? I'm like, it's my superpower.
That's what he does.
Hey, besides being shockingly good looking, it's my superpower.
We're getting used to it, man. Like it's no longer a shock. We just accept.
Brad Pitt texted me the other day.
Again?
Yeah, and he says, I am so grateful to have your photo in my house. I'm like, it's the least I can do. But I've already decided when they make the movie, he's got to be my guy.
I mean, who else?
I know. I mean, we look just alike.
I think Clooney is busy that week.
All right. Thank you, Wes, for sharing your story once again. Thank you, Ty, for being here. I love having you here. It's such great energy. I love watching you and Wes together. Wes, what's coming up next?
We've got several things we're recording today. So we're going to record the priest coming to the house and all of that. And then we're going to do the rebirthing ceremony at the mountain that actually removed all the demons. And you know what?
What?
It got worse after the rebirthing ceremony. You'll have to wait to listen to that episode to hear how it got worse.
I'm interested.
All right. I cannot wait to hear how this goes. And eventually this has to end. But I'm in it. I know you guys are loving it. So go out to at VB Healer on Instagram. Send us your questions so we can answer those in the behind the scenes episodes. And like Wes mentioned earlier, go to at Enlightenment _Unknown, and we will be posting pictures, and you can follow everything about the podcast there.
Andrea, one of the things I wanted to do is kind of go back in the story a little bit to the part where we were in combat in a foreign country, in let's be honest, a Muslim country. We talked about having ham chunks in our bags because we wanted to see if their religion was more important than their hunger. And you got to remember, we were kids. We were 19-year-old men taken and brought over to a country to fight for the government who basically we were there for oil. Let's be honest. We weren't there to save anybody. We weren't there to protect anybody. We were there to get Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait so we could get our oil back. And when I look back at it now, it wasn't the right thing to do. And so I just wanted to talk about that. It's not who we are. It's not who we align with. It's definitely not who I am now. But we were pissed off. We were broken. We were combat Marines. We're not there to be people's friends. So for us to do our job, having feelings, having emotions, being politically correct, isn't what we did. We didn't have that luxury. So I just wanted to talk about that because I know when the episode was over, Ty and everybody's like, oh, you got to cut that part out. And I'm like, well, I think we just described where we were at mentally. And at the end of the day, we were in combat. We were basically children. And if I could take it back, I would. Not because they placed a curse on me, but the reality is I did not respect religion. I didn't respect God. I didn't believe in any of that stuff. And so I probably got what I deserved. And so I just wanted to share that part with you. And so thank you for bringing that up. And so I hope I did not offend any of my listeners.
We really appreciate you all for listening. And so until next time, we'll see you then.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Enlightenment Unknown with Wes Coons, your guide on the quest for self-discovery and the version of you we haven't met yet.